There are some builds at the moment in the Summoner's Rift wilderness that look really troll, but actually work, and in some games could even be considered broken. And this is the case with one AD carry build at the moment that is making a heck of a lot of noise. So in 11.24, Riot decided to buff Kai'Sa, and to a lot of people's happiness, they injected some power back into AP Kai'Sa. Now this is not only great because it allows you to buy AP items, so you can actually evolve your Void Seeker, but it's also great because it gives you some hybrid damage, so you are harder to itemize against. Now some of the top Korean players have tried to make this build work, and it does, but there are certain conditions you all need to be aware of. So in this video, we will be watching clips of this build in action, and we will also be talking about the build itself in terms of what the items are, why we are building these items, and how anyone can make it work in whatever elo they are in. Now just before we do get into the juice of the video, if you want to improve your game on the Rift as much as possible before Season 12 rolls around, which is just after the new year, then signing up to the GameLeap website is the nut Christmas present. On our website, our challenger players and coaches from around the world upload up to 20 videos a week, and these are designed to help anyone reach their potential on League, so join thousands of others and get signed up for that exclusive access. Links in the description and comment section, and let's get into the video. Now before you go ahead and pick Kai'Sa, there are 3 essential details to actually know about. Now the first is of course the build itself. So we start by buying a longsword and then 3 health potions, and this isn't that revolutionary, but then we want to aim our next base on at least 750 gold, because we can then transform that lonely longsword into a powerful early game serrated dirk. Now the dirk buy is important for a couple of reasons here. Number 1, it actually gives you damage during the early laning phase, because without it, with the items we are going to buy after our dirk, you would hit as hard as an Azir, so this is very important. And number 2, it enables you to evolve your Acathean Rain, so your Q a lot earlier than you would without serrated dirk. Now after this, buying a Tear of the Goddess is next on the wish list, and then completing Manamune as soon as possible. But why would you get a Tear on Kai'Sa? Well, this is because with this build, spell casting is a huge component. So if you didn't have all that mana from Manamune and then Muramana, you would run out of that blue petrol real quick. Compare this to when you go crit, auto-attacking and attack speed are crucial, and you should not be going during fights, but there is always this risk when playing towards AP Kai'Sa. Now at this point, it's also a good idea to mention the second essential detail of this setup, your runes, and there is one red hot development here that you should all be abusing. So because you are buying a tier, we can actually stack this quicker by running Cosmic Insight instead of Magical Footwear, which is the traditional setup. What this means is that because of the item haste, this works on tiers cooldown, so we can actually stack it faster and accelerate our scaling. This does mean that you have to spend 300 gold on your stock standard boots of speed, but it is well worth it. Now the rest of the page is exactly the same with Hail of Blades as your keystone, because stacking your passive quickly and detonating the stacks is crucial to you maximizing your damage output. And you are still running Biscuit Delivery because before we get a tier, we are very likely to run that blue bar dry, so this helps us cast more spells before our first base. But what about the rest of your items? Well, after you have Dirk and then Manamune, buying boots and upgrading them to Berserker's Greaves is very important. You can even do this around the time you're spending gold towards Manamune. So if you have some cash left over, splash it on some boots and or a dagger. But after this is when the fun starts to happen, because your next major item is going to be Nash's Tooth. Now this is not uncommon for Kai'Sa to build, but ever since Riot nerfed your AP ratios and your Q and W way back in Season 10, Nash's hasn't really been on the menu. But now that your passive has way more AP in it thanks to the changes, it's actually a legit idea to get the Tooth. So not only is the 100 AP useful because it gets pumped into your passive, but it also allows you to upgrade your W instantly. And from this point, because it will be applying 3 passive stacks and not just 2, you will be accessing that extra AP from your plasma a lot more. Now the attack speed from Nash's is great as well because it helps your DPS, so in terms of the quantity of auto attacks and proccing your passive. It also helps your wave clear, and it also helps contribute to your E-evolve, which you might even be able to evolve when you complete Nash's depending on your level. And the final reason why Nash's is so beneficial is because the on-hit works with your auto attacks. So the spike Nash's gives you in this build is one we have to use every single game. Now the last core item to this setup is the one that is causing all the commotion and interest across the internet. Now it's not Gale Force, it's not Kraken Slayer, it is Crown of the Shattered Queen. And for Ezreal as well, who's another AD carry building this mythic at the moment, it is a super underrated purchase and can be really broken in the right game. But just before I tell you when you should choose to run this build, why are you building Crown? Well, the AP is nice, the HP, the mana, the ability haste, these are all nice, but the real selling point here is the Safeguard passive, because who doesn't want to reduce the enemy Master Yi's damage by 75%? Who doesn't want to cuck the enemy assassin's damage who's about to dive onto you? This is why it's OP. And for an AD carry like Kai'Sa who loves to dive into her fights and assassinate enemy champions herself, it gives you the compensation if you do misplay, if you do sausage finger your positioning. So the stats Crown gives you are definitely good, but these are the cherry on top. The damage reduction passive, that's the actual cake. So now we know the build and understand why we are buying the items we are buying, but when should we be using this build? And notwithstanding Gale Force Collector Phantom Dancer crit setup. Well, look at this game of T1's Gumayusi. His team composition is perfect for AP Kai'Sa. They have a Zed jungle, a set mid, and a Mord top, so they have one real source of magic damage, and it's nowhere near the bottom side of the map. So to balance this composition and his team's damage sources, Gumayusi deciding to go AP Kai'Sa is excellent. And this is the first thing we have to look at, the champions on our team. But what about if we don't know what champions our teammates are going to pick? Well, you can still pick Kai'Sa and build AD if your teammates start locking in AP champions, and you can always type in your team's chat, "I'm going AP Kai'Sa." Then they might decide to leave thinking you're trolling, but you are giving them the information they need before they lock in their champion of choice. So that's the first thing, your own team. Now the second detail is far less important, but it definitely helps to pay attention to, and this is the enemy AD carry. So in Gumayusi's game, he is against an Ezreal. Now what can we say about Ezreal? Well, he's probably the least scariest AD carry to lane against. So for a scaling champion like Kai'Sa, the laning phase should be free, because this is really when you are the most vulnerable. So if we can guarantee our mid to late game, we have a great chance of getting the dub. But what about if the enemy AD carry is a Draven or a Samira? These two matchups that are very scary for Kai'Sa, especially in the laning phase. Well, you're not going to lose every single game into these champions just because they beat you in lane. So you might have to play a bit more passive and just accept, alright, I'm going to be 20 CS down. But that is really the trade-off. You are sacrificing some of that early game, because you are building a tier after all, to take over the game once it gets past 15 minutes. So the enemy AD carry, the champion, is definitely a point of consideration, but this only helps you. It's not a deciding factor, unlike your team composition, which will decide games on its own. So if you have 4 AP champions, it's probably going to be over before you even stack your tier. Now in terms of your skill order, still exactly the same. You're maxing Q, then W, then E, and your ultimate of course at level 6, 11, and 16. So hopefully this video gave you an insight and the required knowledge to go out in your games and pick and then play Kai'Sa with confidence. And if you did enjoy this update video, make sure to let us know by leaving a like down below. If you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of our future daily uploads. And until tomorrow's daily upload, this has been Coach X, the Gist, the Cheese. Oh.